Chapel, for Hope Chapel. Yeah, just... Okay. Some of you may not have been here when we first got started. I'm Dr. Woody, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. I'm actually grateful to be an alcoholic because God allowed me to be an alcoholic so I'd know how much I desperately need Jesus. And 20 years ago, this funny guy named Russell Spatz became my sponsor. And today, this is actually our 8th annual Crossflorida. And Crossflorida stands for Christian Recovery Organization Summit of South Florida. And we're so glad everybody's here this morning. The theme this year is sponsorship. It is extraordinarily important for us to get sober and stay sober to have that sponsorship thing. And Russell is my sponsor, and he's going to come and introduce our first speaker, his sponsor.
Okay. I know a lot. I know just about everybody here. Maybe not everybody. It's good to meet. So my name is Russell Spatz. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I haven't found necessarily a drink since January 25th, 1981, and I've been saved by my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and that's the most important thing I'm going to say right now. And I want to, I've had some very important, in the last 40 years, really, 39 years, my 40th year, I've met some very, very incredible people, men and women, in my life that have helped me out tremendously. I've got my director. Am I supposed to move back? What am I? He does these hand signals to me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Oh, he wants we want to.
Can we put it up on top?
Is that okay? Is that where you want me? Right here? Okay.
What do you want the chair? Up here?
Okay. Yeah, let me, thank you. So, this place is actually going to be packed. I'm so glad that you people are here, but I know we have people coming down from Fort Lauderdale and everything, but I've met some incredible men in my life, and in Dr. Bob's testimony, he says, your Heavenly Father will never let you down, and the Lord Jesus Christ has never let me down. And so, when you've been sober for a long time, what happens is you get a lot of sponsors because they're all like temporary. And wonderful, wonderful men, and I've had 4 of them. And what's great is whenever one of my sponsors passes away and goes to be with the Lord, there's always somebody else there. And I had one of my mentors, Ray O'Keefe, used to say, that guy suffers from chairperson's disease, or chairman's disease. That's when a guy introduces you and he takes a half an hour. But I'm not going to take a half an hour. I get to speak later on. But in any event, I don't know, is Sherman still here? I don't know whether Sherman's still here, but I wanted to, my sponsor, who is Dion, who I'm going to introduce eventually, during the 3rd hour of this talk, my sponsor is, I think in 1989, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I used to sponsor a guy named, it's not a small, let me tell you something, it's a big deal. I don't know if you guys have ever watched those shows. I used to sponsor Lise Campbell, and he was one promoter and brought down acts here, and he used to say to me, all these rock and rollers and these guys, he says, if they're still alive, they're in recovery. He said, trust me. So I don't know if that's generally true, but in any event, what's happened is when my last sponsor, John Glenn, passed away, I was the Lord had, Dion was in my life, and he's got like 52 or 53 years. He's coming up on his 53rd year, which you're going to have 53 years in March, right? 52 years in March? 52 years in March, which means now you get to round up. So you will be in March you will be in your 53rd year, so So he's been around. And what's really great, the best thing I can say is that he loves Jesus. We just got off a cruise, the men's sober Super Bowl cruise, and with a bunch of about 40, 45 men who love the Lord, and we had just had a great time, and this is just a fantastic fellowship. I get to talk in front of a lot of people different times, and I do talk about Jesus, but it's always a little bit better when I can be with fellow travelers who love the Lord. And with that, I just want to, oh, by the way, I did want to say, I don't know whether Sherman's here. So I'm sitting back there with Dion, and he knows all the superstars, We were talking about, I don't want to drop names, but, some guy named Bruce who lives in Jersey. I don't know where he lives, I don't know. But in any event, he said, these guys, pointing to your band, Sherman, he says, these guys are top shelf. He says, they're top shelf, And absolutely fantastic. So,
He's really top shelf.
He's got a recording contract for you after the deal, so I don't know. But he still records, he still has some stuff. He did some stuff for us on the cruise. And he's got an album coming out and some really good stuff, and he sings with a lot of, well, I'll let him talk about that. Oh wait, I got another hour of material. I'm speaking later on, okay? God bless you guys, and I give you Dion. Did I do okay, boss? Just like you told me.
When you say you don't want to take a half hour, I know you're gonna do a little. Thank you, Russ. God bless you, man. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, I am Dion. I'm just grateful to be here. That was beautiful worship and praise. I love that. I love that last song, Praise Forever. Yes, I have been clean and sober for April 1st will be 52 years. I'm one of the blessed ones, I am 80 years old. I was born in 1939, grew up in the Bronx. Who asked you?
Dion, it's Jerry.
We love Jerry.
You're used to it by now.
What was I saying? Oh. Yeah, I've been married 56 yees. My wife and I were going to get a divorce once, but neither one of us wanted the kids. So we stayed together. Anyway, I have 3 daughters, I have 5 grandchildren, and thank God and thank you guys, we're still together. And there's a way, I learned about what love was. That was the first thing I learned when I came into AA in 1968. And I learned about love. That was one of the first things I learned about. Some young fellow walked up to my sponsor and he said, I'm getting divorced. I don't love her anymore. And my sponsor-to-be said, then love her. He said, no, I don't love her anymore. We're getting divorced. He said, then love her. He said, are you deaf? I told you I don't love her anymore. We're going to get divorced. Can't you hear me? He said, I hear you, but you don't hear me. I said, then love her. Love isn't a feeling. He said, love is an action. It's a choice. It's an act of your will. You choose to love. Amen. It's not just a feeling, because I came in I get in an argument with somebody. I got a credit card, I got a guitar, and I got a car. Goodbye. I'm out of here. Who knew how to lean into a marriage instead of leaning out? I did not know that. So I learned about love, And I learned how to define a lot of things that I grew up in Bronx, New York City. I was baptized and confirmed in Mount Carmel Catholic Church, and learned a lot about life on the streets. You know, and you don't learn about, I mean, no one asks you to define love on the streets or anything else. So my sponsor told me, and this really helped me with my 3 daughters. My sponsor told me, Dion, don't ever confuse approval with love. Because if you think approval is, you'll be seeking approval all your life. It is not love. So he taught me to get a healthy, to detach from the attachment of approval. Because I always wanted to know how I did. You know, and I don't know. So now when I'm with my 3 daughters, I say to them, as a father, because I love them unconditionally, I say, don't ever confuse approval with love. They're 2 different things. I love you unconditionally. You do not have to live up to my expectations, because they were out of the house, they're married. You do not have to feel obligated to me. All I ask is that when you have a decision to make, girls, just consult your mind, your heart, your conscience, your God. Make the best decision you can make. I'll be happy with that. But you don't have to live up to my expectations. I love you unconditionally. Just what God does to me. He doesn't bowl over. I have free will. Hey, he respects our free will so much. He allowed us to even kill him. That's how much he respects our free will. When I realized that, man, my whole world changed. So the big book in AA says, it's a good thing to tell people what you were like and what happened and what you're like now. So I grew up in a macho Italian neighborhood in the Bronx, New York. And the code of the streets, I have notes. When you're my age, you need notes. You forget everything. You don't even know where your car is parked anymore. So I grew up in the Bronx, and the code of the streets was reputation and respect. You walked around like, yo, oh, the kid is here. What do you want to know? For some reason, I thought you had to be born knowing everything. I never asked for help or a question. God forbid, men don't do that, do they? No. It's the problem. Respect and reputation. And we knew nothing about character. We didn't even know how to spell the word. And, guys would come up to the corner and go, yo, what is happening? What is happening, brother? What's happening? The reason why they asked that is we didn't have a clue. We didn't know what was going on. So my parents were, to me, 2 beautiful people. They had great qualities, but they were emotional 13-year-olds. Emotionally. You know, a lot of people grow old, they never grow up. Emotionally. If you unzip them and looked inside, you'd see a 13-year-old. Emotionally. They're in a grown body. AA taught me to grow up emotionally. My parents weren't religious. They didn't drink, they didn't drug, They didn't smoke, they didn't drink coffee, they didn't carouse, and they weren't bigots. They just argued 24 hours a day. That was it. They just did not know how to do life. You know, they had no idea. They didn't have a clue. My mother was a hard worker. She died at 104. She worked all her life. Strong, you know. Strong. And just kept the family together. She was like the hub. You know, and my father, she was super responsible. 2 jobs. I remember once asking her, you lived through the Depression. Was that horrible? She said, no, I had a job. She probably made $40 a week, but, you know. But she didn't even feel it. She had a job. My father was the opposite. He was super irresponsible. Never had a real job. Couldn't care less. And that's where the arguments came in because, you know, he wasn't, like I said, he had great qualities, but one of them was he didn't like to work, you know. He could sculpt, he could dive off the bridges, he could walk on his hands on the edge of the tenement buildings. He was like Tarzan, but he didn't like to work. But he was an interesting guy, and what he did for me, I kind of took the best from both of them. It was a strange thing. My sisters sometimes took the worst of both of them. Not a good idea. You know, my mother was a hard worker, and my father was an artist. So what's wrong with that? You know, I took the best. But he was a character, man. He encouraged the wonder and awe and mystery of life in me because he didn't have a job. He would walk down the streets and he'd say, Dion, look at this cloud. It looks like an elephant. Look at that cloud. Ooh, Bugs Bunny. Look just like Bugs Bunny, you know. But, ooh, a leaf. Look at this leaf. Look at the back of the leaf. You see that, the way that is? People who have jobs don't do this. They don't have time. They're worried. He didn't have a care in the world. Carefree. He was the poster boy for carefree. Never took an aspirin in his life. You know? One day, I'll tell you something interesting. I never talked about this, but he was about 89 years old at the time. And we were walking around the lake. There was a lake, North Miami. And I said to him, Dad, you're in the sunset years of your life. Do you have any regrets? He didn't miss a cue. He said, none, not a one. A man becomes exactly who he wants to be. And I thought about that. I said, that is profound. That's exactly right. A man becomes exactly who he wants to become. And then I took a few more steps and I thought, according to what he knows. What if he's standing outside the restaurant and he's eating Cheetos and Diet Coke? And you're telling him, come on in. We got lobster. Come on in. We have tables, tablecloths, knives and forks. It's beautiful in here. We got a fireplace. It's beautiful. Nice big. Come on in. I'm all right. Got my potato chips, you know, my Coke. And they don't come in. What are you going to do? It's like the one question I have for the Lord when I see him face to face is, why didn't they all come in? Well, when he was walking the earth, he couldn't get everybody to come in either, could he? In fact, they crucified him, or we crucified him. So you start learning this stuff. You know, like I said, I was baptized and confirmed in Mount Carmel Catholic Church. And Monsignor Pedernacone, the Mount Carmel Church was a little cathedral in the middle of the Bronx, in my neighborhood, the Fordham section, near Fordham College. And it was like the hub of the neighborhood. And Monsignor would have a long gown on with a little prayer book, and he used to walk up and down the sidewalk doing his prayers, I think, you know. When I was a kid, you know, it might have been 12, 13, every time I always saw him. When I was about 15, a James Dean movie came out, Rebel Without a Cause. And I was walking past the church, and the Monsignor said, "Yo, Dion, come over here. What's this rebel without a cause?" I said, "Monsignor, that's James Dean. That's a great movie." He said, "Why rebel without a cause? Rebel for the truth, Dion, then you got something." I went, "Oh, thanks, Monsignor. Thanks for reminding me." I walk away, I'm thinking, what the hell's he talking about? I didn't know what he was talking about. And then when I came back the other way, he said, "Dion, come over here. What makes a man happy?" I said, "Oh, Monsignor." I said, if I could go get a Ford Thunderbird with black leather bucket seats and wire chrome wheels, just, you know, silver gray, you know, Monsignor, if I could get a J200 Gibson guitar, like Elvis Presley, Monsignor, if I could get a date with Susan, this girl moved down from Vermont, Monsignor, I never knew they grew anything as beautiful as this girl Susan. I said, if I could get a date with her, Monsignor, she's a righteous fox. Monsignor, I'd be a happy guy. If I could get a hit record, Monsignor, you're looking at a happy guy. No, Dion. The virtuous man is a happy man. Oh, no, I was thinking something. I'll see you later. I'm walking away. I'm thinking, wow, what virtue? I didn't even know what it was. I thought he had a cold like virtue. So hey, Monsignor, what does virtue mean? I never forget this, because you ask a question and you get a 20-minute answer. You know, Monsignor was like Russell. You know what I'm saying? You know, the short answer. It's a habitual and firm disposition to do the good. I was up to no good. What, are you kidding me? You know, the guys across the street, the gang, they would never go to the Monsignor. But I found him engaging. He used to challenge me. He used to kind of stir up things in me. He thought differently than everybody. So I don't know, I was drawn to him. Then I'd go back to the gang and they'd say, what do you want? What are you talking about? I said, virtue. Oh, let's go get some cigarettes. I didn't know what that was. That was us. So, I rejected the church because back when I was 13, I was trying to become an altar boy, and something happened with some of the people. I ain't going this route. I was into Chuck Berry. Anyway, just think, Chuck Berry. Up in the morning and out to school. The teacher was teaching the golden rule. He went to a private Catholic school. The teacher was teaching the golden rule. That's what I was thinking. But the lure of the streets and the cool of the gangs, just drew me out, I had this gift for music. I got really drawn in at the age of, I was young, man. I was like 11. I heard this music coming out of this little radio. I don't know, by the grace of God, it was on this country station. I heard Hank Williams. And he was singing, you know, I left my home down on the rural route, told my pa I was going stepping down to get the honky-tonk blues. I went crazy. And then I heard a song called You're the One Who Really Gives Me a Buzz. I didn't think I could last much longer, but it shows you just how wrong I was. And I went out of my mind. I said, you know, it was a blues tune, you know, and it was just so cool. I'm turning in the radio, trying to get the latest news. You know, they make me feel so bad, like I got the lonesome blues. Oh, you're the one who really gives me a buzz. I didn't think I could last much longer, but it shows you just how wrong I was. And I'm trying to tell all my friends about this guy, Jimmy Rogers, who rhymed was with buzz. And they're like, get away from me. I heard, get away, please. Leave me alone. Here comes the was buzz kid. I was just enthralled, and I started collecting records and writing songs. I had this little gift. But you know, drugs came into our neighborhood early on. And I was a frustrated kid, man. I didn't get any blueprints to learn how to live, you know? I didn't know how to do life. You know, my parents were just frightened, but they never said it. You know, kids could pick up on stuff. And they would say, you shouldn't feel that way. It's stupid to feel that way. But I'm starving. I feel hungry. Don't feel that way. You're crazy. You're wrong to feel that way. It's stupid to feel that way. You should never feel that way. How the hell do you feel? I didn't know. You know, it was like, what do you deny yourself? You know, so when the drugs came around, I took a little hit of this or a little of that, and I drank a little of it. I felt good. I walked up to the corner candy store on the corner, and Susan was there. And I was like 16 maybe. 14 I started doing this stuff. But when she moved into the neighborhood, I walked into the candy store. I was maybe 15. I got the pictures on my phone. I was sending them around. I'm still married to this girl. This is like, you know, 57 years, you know? It's my pleasure. You'd have to ask her about the rest of it. Freaking horror. No. I walk into the corner candy store and I'm trying to impress this girl. I couldn't say anything wrong. I was stoned out of my mind. I couldn't say anything wrong. At least that's what I thought. You know, I don't know what I was saying, but I had confidence. The kid is here, man. What do you want to know? I'll love you forever, baby. Forever. Am I right or am I right? Me and you. Forever. She's like the guys with the was and buzz. Get away from me. Who are you? You know, she just, you know, she was from Vermont. She didn't get it, you know. I didn't even know who I was. You know, anyway. But meeting this girl gave me great hope that I had a future. You know, I'm thinking if I can get close to this girl, any way I can, my whole life will change. There's a future here. I thought, you know, there's a future. It gave me vision. It gave me hope. But I was taking the drugs, you know, that's why I went back to them. I felt so good. That's why I went there. The next morning, I'm looking for them because it felt good. So I go back, and that started. You know, you think you found heaven, and you know, you found hell. You know what I'm saying? It'll kill you. But in my mind, I found heaven at that time. And it gave me confidence. I didn't have to second guess myself. And one day, this black guy in the neighborhood, his name was Willie Green, he used to, you know, teach me these John Lee Hooker songs and Jimmy Reed songs. And he was just a blessing in my life. Thank God for him. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. And somebody heard me singing, and they said, why don't you go down this, I know this company that opened up, these two guys opened up this little record company. This was the mid-50s. I was about 16 years old, you know. And I went down there, and I got the guitar, and I went, here I am, girl, standing in the rain, going around inside a hurricane, baby. I'm gonna ride with you, you know. Don't you know how a good man feels? My mind feels like it ain't got no driving wheel, baby. I'm gonna ride with you. And you could get a 3-minute song, write a 3-minute song and make sense of the whole world, resolve conflict. You know, at the end of the last verse could be, everybody's got to make a change sometime. My heart is turning towards the sunshine, baby. I'm going to ride and say, a 3-minute song was like salvation for me. I would just get all my frustrations out, write a song, and all the guys in the neighborhood would go, sing that again, that's great. Oh, that's great. Do that again. I used to sing, no one knows what I go through, and the tears I cry for you. And when I smile, it's just a pose. My heart is restless, but no one knows. And they all do that again. What a song! And that it made me realize why they're all on the bar stools putting money in the jukebox, listening to these songs about lonely, because they can't tell each other, I'm lonely. You'll get a chinook right in your head. If you talk to somebody like that, you'll get killed. No one knows what I go through and the tears I cry for you. And you know, you can't, but a song, you could say things and it bypasses your head. It goes right to your heart. It doesn't challenge anybody. It doesn't offend anybody. And it doesn't, so a song, it's different. It goes right past your brain and it goes into your heart, you know. I felt like I found the secret. I could sing about secrets inside me, and it's not going to disturb anybody. It's not going to be, it's a song. And wow, it was like a bit of salvation for me. At least I could, because otherwise you just wind down and spin in and you blow your brains out. You know, people, that happens. So I was very blessed to have this little gift. And then I got a hit record right off the bat. I recruited some guys in my neighborhood. We were just having fun. There were no role models or people to emulate. We had some black groups in Harlem that we, like the Cadillacs and we loved, but we were making up sounds. On the train going down, we used to go to the Apollo Theater, and the sax player would come out in the middle of the stage, with a white suit and white pants and a white hat and a sax, and and we go, whoa, we run out of there and say, do this. We didn't know how to play sax, but we could make the sounds, and we made the sounds, and we made records. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just having fun. Get a hit record, right? successful. Now, you know, my neighborhood didn't have air conditioning, so all the windows were open in the 50s. And you get a #1 record, it's pouring out of everybody's apartment. It's on the radio. All at once, it was like stereo neighborhood. We got jackets, we put our names on the jackets, you know, we thought, you know, we're something special. I started traveling with Chuck Berry and Little Richard, Roy Orbison, the Everly Brothers. The Everly Brothers were funny, man. They came from the South. They didn't talk. Once in a while they'd say, yep. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they didn't talk. You know, and you can't shut up a Jew or an Italian from New York. They don't shut up. Maybe I was talking too much. I don't know. Anyway, I was successful. I was at the top of my profession. I got, you know, 12 gold records from the age of like 17 to about 23. Okay? So let me tell you what happened with that. You know, St. Augustine, I was telling Russ back there, I said, you know, St. Augustine said something profound. He said, what? He said he was a doctor of the church, so he said, prestige, money, and power are just passing idols. Men's hearts are restless until they rest in God. Period. Because all that stuff is not God. It's just passing. It's not the unconditional good. There's no deep sense of satisfaction or, you know, what your soul is longing for. But this is stuff I came into later because when I started reading St. Thomas Aquinas, and he said something profound, which I learned in AA too. It was all, you know, it's all coming from the same place. It's very biblical, but sometimes they put it in a nutshell for you. St. Thomas Aquinas put it this way. He said, when you don't have God, when you're not resting in God, and you don't have a personal relationship with God, something's got to fill your life. And people go for the 4 substitutes, the 4 addictions, the typical temptations: wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. Those 4 things: wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. Wealth, I mean, people will kill you for $2. Pleasure, you know, the sex, drugs, rock and roll. You know it yourself. It just doesn't bring satisfaction and a deep sense of peace and serenity and power in your life. You kind of get weaker and weaker going along, you know. And you can see the power struggle. Just look at the politicians today. Gee, I mean, they're out of their minds. Truly. I mean, it is vicious to hold on to that power. And then honor. He said that about me. I mean, you can watch the Jersey Housewives or the New York House. It's all about wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. Me, I'm the most honest person. Did you hear what? I am so honest. I wouldn't ever do that. Honor. I got to be right. I got to win. I got to be better. It just goes on and on. I mean, there's no sense of who anybody is. It's all outside. I got this. And they get offended every 2 minutes. You know what they said? Who cares? know, by the way, we're talking, I'm going to fast forward because I want to talk about Jesus for a moment, but I'll tell you how I came to him. But when I talk about wealth, pleasure, power, and honor, you look at the cross, you know, and in the Catholic Church, Jesus is on the cross. So if you look at him on the cross, you say, what does he despise on the cross? He had no wealth. He didn't even have pockets. He's at the, what you're watching, what the cross represents is that's a man, that's an icon of joy. And you say, how is that? Well, I'll tell you. He didn't have wealth, pleasure. He was at his spiritual and mental limits. I mean, just disturbing. I mean, you get nails in your feet and nails in your hands. He's, you know, at his limits. Excruciating pain. Power, he gave it up. He said it in the garden. Father, let it pass. I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. But if it's your will, I'll go. I'll do it. So he went. Honor, they were spitting at him. They were mocking him. Come down. So he despised the wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. Not that these things are bad. They're not bad. But he doesn't want us attached to them. They're not God. So true freedom is when Thomas Aquinas says, when you have God in your life and you're truly resting in him, he will shape your desire for wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. I came into AA. I was thinking I thought, if I do all this stuff, I'm going to get there. And then I went through the steps and I had a spiritual awakening. I found myself there, and that enables me to do this stuff. It's really different. It's totally, I had it upside down. So you have to get a healthy attachment to the world. Wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. And then you really got, it's true freedom. It's a freedom of excellence. It's an authentic freedom. It's living with God in your life and knowing that he has a plan for your life. When I first came into AA, my sponsor said, God loves you and has a plan for your life. Could you come up with something better? And I was such a defiant, arrogant little twerp. I went, God loves me and has a plan for my life. It kind of got me nervous, like, I got to get on somebody else's plan. You know what I mean? I thought, I got this. You know, my parents couldn't even handle their own life. I wasn't going to turn my life over to anybody. No way. What are you? You're looking at the wrong guy. I'm going to hold on to, I know, I'm not going to do what anybody wants. You know, that's where I was at. So I'm thinking, you know, I come to love this man who I respected very much. I had a lot of affection for him. And, you know, I came to believe, I says, I believe you, Jack, that God has a plan for my life, and he loves me. And then he leaned in and he said, you know, what gets in the way of that? I said, no. You. And he talked about sin. He was a Christian. You know, in AA they say the exact nature of your wrongs, your defects of character, your shortcomings, all this stuff. But it's, you know, and Bill does say it on a page. He says, you know, call it sin. And it's really missing the mark. It's shooting for something way below what God has, you know, planned for your life. You know, I wanted to say this. On the way down, I was thinking, Adam was driving down from the same neighborhood in Boca. And I was saying, you know, I wouldn't listen to a thing that Christ had to say. Who cares? This was years ago. I mean, you know, George Washington, Jesus, you know, Michelangelo, Paul, who cares? I'm going to do what I want to do. But in the big book, on page 10 and 11, what it talks about is Bill Wilson. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the program or not, but I'll just tell you what it says. On the bottom of page 10, it says, you know, when people talk to me about a personal relationship with God where there was direction, and he would show you a way how to live, he said, my mind would snap shut. The prospect of somebody else having a plan for my life, I believe in a God of the universe. I believe in a higher power, but a personal God who had direction, God forbid. All of a sudden, I got to turn my will and my life over to somebody who has direction. I'm from the Bronx. But then on page 11, on the top, I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm not a scholar or I didn't memorize it. But what he says is if Jesus is the Son of God, I'm going to paraphrase the way I interpret it. Bill Wilson actually says this on page 11. If Jesus is the Son of God, shouldn't I listen? The Son of God, shouldn't I listen to everything he said? Why listen to Barack Obama or Trump or the Pope or my father, my mother, even Russell or me? Who cares? But if so here's the question that happened in my mind when I read that. I have to know who Jesus is. I have to know his identity with exactness. If he's the Son of God, I'm going to listen. So now, I learned about prayer in AA. So I'm walking around the streets. I'm working the program. I got a sponsor because what happened to me is I was in a restaurant with my wife and I was drunk and I was drinking and I was stoned up until we got married. I had all these hit records, money in the bank. I was successful. I was at the top of my profession. And I'm in the restaurant with her and she says, could I ask you something? We weren't married. She said, because I had a concert, and they took pictures, the gauntlet of flashbulbs going off, and the people interviewing me, and the roses, and the accolades, and the thing, and we went out for dinner, and she said, can I ask you something? I said, yeah. She said, is this it? Is this all you want? I'm thinking, I'm trying to get close to this girl. I want to impress her. It's my only thing. I want to impress this girl. She's saying, is this it? I'm like, maybe we're in the wrong restaurant. I don't know. It was like, I mean, we're in I'm ordering Beaujolais and Bordeaux. I learned, I thought it was getting culture. I didn't know I was an alcoholic. So I got on the offense, like the game Sunday, on the offense. I said, marry me. I was afraid to lose her. I knew she was asking me something profound, but I didn't know what it was. So I said, marry me. And she did. Shows you how crazy she was. she wasn't perfect. But being her is being better than perfect. So the next 5 years was the bleakest, darkest emotional period of my life. Because they say there's 3 stages to addiction and alcoholism. The first stage is fun. You're just going up. Then it levels out with some fun and problems. And then nothing but problems. And that's what happened from 63 to 68. The bleakest, darkest emotional period of my life. Something was missing. Something was wrong. I tried to quit. I'll quit tomorrow. I'll quit tomorrow. Well, maybe tomorrow. Or, well, the New Year's coming up. It's only 2 months. I'll quit on New Year's. You know, I'll quit on Valentine's Day. Easter, I'll quit on Easter. You know, 4th of July, that's even a better one. 4th of July, it makes sense for me to quit on the 4th of July. Maybe Thanksgiving is even a better idea. And you know, went on and on. Went on and on. Something was missing. Irritable, restless, discontent. The book, the AA book, calls it a soul sickness. Resentments, shame, guilt, remorse, blame. Anybody in this room who's been there or has an addict or an alcoholic uncle, sister, brother, father, this is the game the alcoholic plays and the addict plays. Blame. You should. This is what they do all the time, these people. Me. You never. You always. Why don't you? You know what's wrong with you? You ever hear anything else out of your mouth? No. That's it. It's you. And that's the way I was. I would kick people out of my house. Kick people out of my house. Get out of here. People that loved me and wanted to help me. I was just, I don't know, fear that I didn't know how to look at it. I really did not know how to look at the fear. It would have frightened me to death. You know, I didn't know how to look. I run into a guy who's been in AA 14 years, Jack. He says, you know, Dion, your mind is broke. You can't fix a broken mind with a broken mind. He said, but God says, you know what redemption means? I don't know. Why? He says redemption means you can't do anything about the past. Nothing. There's nothing we could do about the past. But God could. God could do something about it. Why? You know, give you a brand new start. I mean, you know, this is amazing, amazing, amazing. So he's talking about surrender. And surrender's a dirty word in my neighborhood. You don't surrender. I don't care if somebody's banging your head on the concrete. You do not surrender. And he said, Dion, I'm not talking about running away from anybody. I'm talking about running to someone who loves you and wants to embrace you and wants to give you health and wisdom and power and peace and forgiveness. And he went on and on and on. So that night I went home and I got on my knees. And I said, God, if you're real, I said, I need help. I don't know what to do. And I don't know exactly what happened there, but God touched me. He embraced me. When I got up, he took away the obsession to drink and drug. I've never had it since. And I went back to this guy and I said, I'm in. Take me to a meeting, I'm in. And we went to a meeting and I learned that the most courageous thing a man can do is open his heart to God. That the most courageous thing a man can do. And God created us in such a way only to work well when we're in union with Him. And the 12 steps are designed to lead you into union with Him. It's like, I always say, it's like the first step is surrender. Surrender. The second step is came to believe that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity. My sponsor says, insane is believing, people that are he says, my definition of insanity is believing a lie. And I believed in a lie. And I'll tell you what it was, but I got it right after that. 1, 2, working the steps. 3, 4, and then by the time you get to 12, you're under the spout where the glory comes out. It says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to practice these principles in all our affairs and, pass this message to others. What message? Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message. What message? Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice the principles in all our affairs. So I started working the steps. I didn't know any better. I bought the book, AA Comes of Age. It's the history of AA. And I saw that Bill Wilson had as a Catholic priest for a sponsor for 20 years. Father Ed Dowling and Father Reverend Shoemaker helped him write the book. Edit the book. And it says, be quick to see where religious people are right and make use of what they have to offer. I was slow, but I was in. I was ready to listen with the awakening, And there was something I wanted to tell you back then, but I got off and I forget what it was. It happens when you're 80. Wait, what? Call me up and say, yeah, that happened to me. So, I'm in AA 11 years. I'm working the program. I believe in God. I believe in God. He took away my obsession to drink and drug. I believe in God. And then one day somebody says, when you hold hands at the end of the meeting, he says, to our God in the sky, our Father who art, and I thought, to our God in the sky? I don't believe no God in the sky. What is he talking about? So then I started asking these guys, is God in the sky? Is he like a supreme being that lives within nature, within the universe, where you could go up in a, like the astronaut, or the cosmonauts in Russia went up and they looked out the window and in the capsule and they said, we don't see him. There must be no God. Like you could go up there, take a scraping, maybe on his leg or something, and you could bring it back and put it under a, what do they call those, a petri dish or something. Yeah, we got him. This is him, God. My sponsor said, no, he took out the 24-hour book. And in the 24-hour book, it actually defines who God is. It says, God is not a supreme being within the universe. He's not like These high-profile atheists, they write these books like Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, Robert Dawkins, something like that. They're very prolific and they're imaginative, great writers, but they're rejecting the God in the sky. I reject that too. God is much bigger than that. God is outside of space and time. He created the universe. He created the sky. If you know, when somebody asked me who God is, I went, I didn't know what that was. But God is outside of space and time. He's not in Saturday. He is, when Moses said, "Who are you?" He said, "I am that I am." He's not contingent on anything. Everything is contingent on something. You know, like the bench, it was a tree, and the water, and everything is, me, Pat and Fran got together one night, and wow, Dion's here. God, he didn't say, Moses said, "Who are you?" He didn't say, well, Ralph and Lillian got together one night, and no. God is the sheer act of being itself. Self-contained kind of. It just the beginning and the end. More than the sky. I don't want to put that guy down, our God in the sky. He's making him very, So that God, if he wanted to step into history and show me how much he loves me and die for me and forgive me for I'm a boy. I said, yeah, I get it. So, my mind started opening up, talking to my sponsors. And one day, after talking to them, I was about 38 years old, and this young girl was coming on to me in AA. She was about 24. And to me, it was like very flattering. I was like, she was beautiful, kids still got it. I'm like, she's, she said, we're having a conference up in Tampa. We could get our own rooms. Nobody will know. So I was a little frustrated. I was 11 years in AA, and I was frustrated. I was like, something was wrong again. I felt like I was circling the airport and I couldn't land, spiritually. I just, I was in a funny place. I had worked the program for 11 years. I had it on my refrigerator. What step are you on? How many people are you sponsoring? And I was frustrated. She's coming, I didn't use AA. I felt it was very sacred. My sponsor told me that. He said, don't, this is where you're going to get life. You don't mess it up there. You don't use it like a barroom. So I didn't want to screw it up. I was married. I was in AA 11 years. I had a sponsor. I didn't want to diss him. And the family and the whole. So I went out jogging. I used to do a 6-mile loop when I was that age. Now I drive 6 miles a day no matter what it is. So I'm jogging, and I was very frustrated. I was like conflicted. And I cried out. I don't think I said it out loud. But I said, God, it would be nice to be closer to you. And before I could finish the sentence, like a white light went off in the pit of my being. And it came out of every pore of my being. It was like very profound and sudden and brilliant. And Jesus is standing in front of me. Christ. And I knew who he was. I never went to church. But like Bill Wilson said, this must be the God of the preachers. He was in the hospital room when the light, So And as I was thinking, I saw him, and this all happened in a flash. I don't even know how to tell you that. I'm doing the best I could. I heard a real crash behind me, like something dropped, like, and I turned around. I felt like a tank fell. And it was like there was nothing there. It was like I came out of a cocoon. And I ran right into his body. And the world changed. It became technicolor. The sky was blue. And the trees were green. They were 2 minutes ago, but I didn't see it like this. A red car drove by. I didn't believe how red it was. It was red. So I jog home, and I run into the house, and I said, Susan, Jesus is alive. I was all excited. I don't know what I was just, and she looked at me like, who doesn't know that? I said, why didn't you tell me? She said, yeah, like you're going to believe me. Right? You know, when we tell people, you know. But I got to tell you, something profound happened before that jog. And I want to tell you what it was. These two people, old friends of mine, found Christ. And they were telling me about Jesus. I got very angry at them. I believed in God. I was in AA. I believed in the God of AA. Whoever that is. He doesn't drink. But you know, God is in AA. The true God, the living God is in AA. Bill Wilson was a Christian. He came to the Lord, took an altar called Bob. You know, Dr. Bob, for sure. You know, Clarence came to Dr. Bob. We were talking about this at breakfast. He said, Dr. Bob, I lost my family. I lost my business. I'm deteriorating. I'm destroying everything. I feel like garbage. And Dr. Bob said, young man, do you believe in God? And he said, what does that have to do with it? And Dr. Bob said, everything. And that's exactly what it was, you know. Who knew? I didn't know. So, where was I? I'm in Christ, so I'm not lost, don't get me wrong. So, let me just tell you that the freedom that goes with this, the joy, you know, Susan and I, man, we don't miss church. We love church, you know, and it's a wonderful thing to pray with your wife and to kneel and to keep God the center of your life. Because in the big book, there's a wonderful statement. The last page of the book, the last page of the program. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact. Come on. What a promise. And you know, today I'm doing an album. I got to be on. I'm going to brag a little, promote a little. I don't trust people that promote themselves. I really don't. You ever get these people? I don't know. But I'm going to promote because I got to tell you, because there's a reason. So I'm doing this album, and I'm getting better as a songwriter, thanks to God. You know, otherwise I wouldn't even be here. So Joe Bonamassa, a guy, he's one of the best blues guitarists in the country, says, let me play on it. So then the guy from ZZ Top, Billy Gibbons, he says, wow, I like that song, let me play on that. Then Jeff Beck, who I think he's the best guitar player in the universe, he hears a song and says, I want to play on that. Then Brian Setzer from Stray Cats, he wants to play on something. Then Joe Walsh wants to play on something. then Taj Mahal, Bruce Springsteen. I'm getting all these people, and I'm like getting, again, it brings me back to my, success is like a narcotic. And this is exciting stuff for me. I'm 80 years old. I'm thinking, this is my favorite album, and I want more. I'm waiting for the next guy to come in and saying, yeah, I'm sending you, I overdubbed on this song, and more excitement. And then the Lord says, you got to keep him first. I don't care if this thing works out or not. I'd love it to work out. It's really, and I know he's in it, and I know he's doing it. I couldn't plan it in a million years, but God forbid I don't keep him first. It's all for naught, like Stevie B's here, just saying, and he always says when he talks, he says the big book says remarkable things will follow. Just listen to that. You hear that word? Remarkable things will happen if you do these things well. If. It's like the book of John. I'm not sorry, not the book. I used to go to this Brooklyn Bible study. They used to go, turn to regular John. First John and regular John. There was this one guy who was a postman. He used to say, I used to be dead as a doornail. Dead. I was dead. He made the point, right? I was dead. Now I'm alive, And I'm going to leave you with this because I have 3 beautiful daughters and I got great friends. Like Russ said, we were on a Solar Brothers cruise for the Super Bowl. 40 guys talking about the Lord in the room all weekend. I'm still high. Anyway, when I came into AA, they had 3 signs over the desk, where they chair a meeting. Am I talking for about a week now? How long have I been up here? So there's these 3 signs behind the desk. It says, trust God, clean house, help others. Trust God. Now, when I first came to AA, I didn't know who God was from the hole in the wall. But it said, trust God, clean house. What? My house is clean. I didn't know they were talking about soul. And then they said, my sponsor said, being clean is better than being clever, Leon. Get in the truck. Help others. Man, I didn't help others, just the idea of loving others for the sake of others, enough, what I was going to get out of it. I didn't know that path, trust God, clean house, help others. That's the path of a saint, or a saint in the making. Not imagine somebody knowing they're a saint going, I'm a saint. Can't be, but I think it's worthy to try. And I think it wasn't Thelonious Monk, it was Sonny Rollins, no. Coltrane, what was it, John Coltrane? John Coltrane used to say, the only regret in life is not trying to be a saint. That is beautiful. Why not try? That's a great mission statement. Why not? If you're going to try anything, why not try that? So at the end of it all, you're standing there and you say, Lord, at least you tried. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, It was like Thomas Merton was walking down Fifth Avenue with his friend. He said, this poet, and he said, a poet said to him, Thomas, I love the 7-Story Mountain, Thomas Merton. He was a monk. I love that book, free books. So he's walking down Fifth Avenue. The reason why I love it is he's a man of the today, This was the 50s. He was going to Columbia University, but he was walking down the street, and this poet asked him, he says, what do you want out of life? He says, I want to be a good Catholic. Because he was lost, and he became enthralled with the Catholic Church, and he came in and he loved Christ. And the poet said to him, because what John Coltrane was quoting is a French guy who said the only regret in life is not trying to be, trying to.
Not trying to be a saint.
Not trying to be a saint. That's the only regret in life. Thank you. I need scholars, like whispering. So he told Merton said to him, he said, where do you want to go from here? Merton said, I want to be a good Catholic. He said, that's not enough. Not enough. You should try and be a saint. I think that's great. And I think the way to get there, personally, and I know this, those three things: trust God, clean house, help others. It's simple. Not easy. I fall on my face every day. You know what I'm saying. But that's the path, So I wanted to thank you for letting me come up and share my experience, strength, and hope with you. I hope you have a beautiful Saturday, and I want to thank you, Russ, for asking me to talk. I always feel like I get to know people better, they get to know me better, and we get to, and Christ brings us closer together, so it's a good day, and I'm thankful I'm here, grateful. Thank you.